Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The Titanic has claimed yet more victims. When will your hunger be satisfied? A submersible vessel that takes tourists to visit the wreckage of the Titanic went missing on Sunday. The vessel, named Titan, had enough oxygen to last until early on Thursday morning. The race to find the Titan ramped up after knocking noises were heard underwater on Wednesday. After 3 days of intense search efforts covering an area twice the size of Connecticut, debris confirmed to be the wreckage of the Titan was found 1,600 feet away from the Titanic. It's always in the last place you look. The Coast Guard said that the Titan was probably destroyed in an implosion due to the deep water pressure. An implosion which the U.S. Navy apparently heard on Sunday. The Navy reported the sound they heard to the Coast Guard to aid in the search, but no one told the public. Why? Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. held off on making public what noises it had detected because it wanted to ensure search and rescue operations continued and couldn't say for sure it was an implosion. Sounds legit. I can think of no other reason the U.S. government would want a protracted story of lives on the line dominating the news. The Titan was from OceanGate Expeditions. An OceanGate employee said that he warned of major safety issues with the sub in 2018. Right before being fired. The OceanGate CEO, meanwhile, said in an interview that he wanted his team to have a variety of different backgrounds, rather than just a bunch of 50-year-old white guys, leading some to blame the tragedy on wokeness. Others point to the fact that the sub was operated by a video game controller.
We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on!
The Titan, which could cost up to $250,000 a ticket, had 5 people on board, including OceanGate Expeditions CEO Stockton Rush and British billionaire Hamish Harding. If only he went to space like a normal billionaire. Oh wait, he did go to space. If only billionaires went somewhere normal on vacation, like beautiful Delaware. Did you know Delaware is the lowest state, with an average height of just 60 feet above sea level? That's probably why, despite objectively being the best state, they're not high and mighty about it, unlike some other coastal elites. As harrowing as the story was, hopefully Hollywood doesn't turn it into a movie. Otherwise, future generations will go on submersibles exploring the wreckage of the submersible that was exploring the wreckage of the Titanic, and so on and so forth. It'll go on, like Celine Dion's heart. And after the break, is the Army too fat? Welcome back. A new Army regulation for measuring body fat is expected to disqualify some soldiers from service.
The Army has come up with a new way to measure body fat on the men and women who serve. The downside is it could result in more soldiers failing their body fat assessments. Previously, men were measured around their neck and stomachs, while women were measured around their neck, waist, and hips. Now all soldiers, regardless of gender, would be measured around the navel to figure out their body fat. Data given to CNN shows 34% of people who pass the previous measurement test will fail this new version.
Considering the Army is falling well short of its recruitment goals, cutting soldiers seems like a terrible idea. If anything, they should encourage soldiers to put on even more weight. It's about the only way they'll be able to make their troops double in size. And they're having trouble recruiting during peacetime. What's going to happen if World War III breaks out with China? All you'd have to do to avoid the draft is put on the freshman 15. The Army's going to learn the hard way that a lot of people won't want to die for their country. They'd instead prefer to die of beaties. 2 lawsuits were filed against New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg, accusing him of coordinating with the Department of Justice and the White House in indicting former President Donald Trump. Bragg indicted Trump over allegedly falsifying business records, while allegedly having his lawyer Michael Cohen pay hush money to cover an alleged affair. Allegedly. Bragg was asked to turn over information regarding his possible communication with the DOJ and the White House under the Freedom of Information Act. He failed to do so. According to one of the lawsuits, regrettably, these questions have not been met with answers. These reports have raised concerns in many circles based in large part upon the long-standing history of President Trump's political opponents coordinating their activities to systematically weaponize the criminal justice system against him and thereby pervert the course of justice. Now, I think that's silly. I mean, since when has refusing to turn over documents been a matter for the courts? That whole situation is a mess. Luckily, I did 2 full episodes covering it, so check it out. Speaking of messes, the environment. While visiting California, President Biden announced over $600 million in climate change investments to help coastal cities fight rising sea levels. Those darn coastal elites, always getting special treatment and thinking they're better than everyone else just because they'll be the first ones wiped off the map if the polar ice caps melt. Now, will this money help? Well, who knows? But worst case scenario, if water levels do rise, at least San Francisco will get a much needed deep clean. And after the break, affirmative action has made its way all the way to the Supreme Court. Welcome back. It's officially been a year since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The White House spent this past week commemorating the historic decision, presumably by screaming into a pillow, "Why didn't Ruth Bader Ginsburg retire when Obama was still in office?" The White House had several events showing how this has affected various people. It has even affected me. For example, the number of abortion jokes I tell on this show has more than quintupled in the past year. Speaking of the Supreme Court, abortion may not be the only thing they overturn. Affirmative action could potentially be done away with by the end of the month, when the Supreme Court hears a case involving Harvard and the University of North Carolina over considering race as a factor in student admissions. Affirmative action is a set of policies designed to fight discrimination in employment and college admissions. While meant to provide equal opportunities to women and especially minorities, opponents argue it's reverse discrimination and awards positions by race rather than merit. And that's absurd. Perfect example, Kamala Harris. She's absolutely the best choice for vice president. She wasn't chosen for that position just because she's a woman of color. She was chosen because she had the best qualifications, such as, and look at all the great things she's accomplished since taking office, like, and see how all the people love her. Many also argue that affirmative action hurts Asian Americans, who achieve academically but can sometimes be denied entry into schools who are trying to be more diverse. Some also argue that affirmative action should be based on class, not race, as that would help the disadvantaged from every group and potentially be more fair. While some dread and some cheer the end of affirmative action, at least there's one thing everyone can be happy about. No matter your socioeconomic or racial background, everyone in future generations will be given the exact same career opportunity, being replaced by robots. As we're all made obsolete, we can think at least they didn't discriminate. And after the break, Starbucks and Amazon vow to help refugees get jobs. Welcome back. Amazon, Starbucks, and other companies vowed to help 250,000 refugees displaced by wars find jobs in Europe. Amazon and Starbucks feel it's the right thing to do. Mainly because if these people are fleeing wars, then they're probably less likely to start a union. You know who else had a union? The Soviets! And Russia is why a lot of you wound up here in the first place. Now quit whining about bathroom breaks and get back to work. And speaking of big-name CEOs, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg say they're ready for a cage match. After news broke that Zuckerberg's company Meta was working on a Twitter clone/rival, Elon Musk started taking shots at Zuckerberg on Twitter. But when a user told Musk to be careful because Zuckerberg does jiu-jitsu now, Musk said he was up for a cage match. To which Zuckerberg posted on Instagram, "Send me the location." And Musk obliged. Looks like I'm going to be investing in some tickets to Vegas sometime soon. Homeless rates across America have continued to grow in 2023, with New York City and Los Angeles expected to see the biggest spikes in the homeless population. California Governor Gavin Newsom announced he would spend an additional $200 million to move 7,300 homeless people from encampments into housing. Because the billions California has already spent unsuccessfully trying to fix its homeless crisis is only proof that they haven't spent enough money. Keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's the definition of bureaucracy. Maybe throw in another $1.7 million toilet while you're at it. Why not? Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass announced she hopes to end street homelessness in LA by 2026. She said, "My goal would be really to end street homelessness. There'll still be people in shelters and interim housing, but to at least not have people dying on our streets." So, what, are they just going to ask the homeless to go die on lawns and sidewalks instead? Sure, there are still millions of homeless, but at least they're not on the streets. Problem solved. Some think part of this spike in homelessness is due to landlords being able to evict tenants who owe unpaid rent, who were protected by pandemic restrictions that are now lifted. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib want to make it easier for citizens to find housing by introducing legislation that would limit landlords from being able to run criminal background checks on potential tenants. Of course, Tlaib seemingly doesn't want criminal records for almost anyone, as she once advocated eliminating federal prisons. Because who needs prisons when you can just spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on private security? Why doesn't everyone just do that? While the American prison system is far from perfect, doing away with them is a horrible idea. Since the housing crisis in the U.S. is so bad that going to prison is the only option for a lot of people to guarantee having a roof over their heads for the next 30 years, or 20 with good behavior. And no, I'm not advocating we take all the homeless and lock them up. Who do you think I am? Kamala Harris? Yeah, she definitely was the right person for vice president. Speaking of criminals, Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden pled guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges of tax avoidance and a felony charge of possession of a firearm. Delaware District Attorney David C. Weiss explained the charges. Despite owing in excess of $100,000 in federal income taxes in 2017 and 2018, he did not pay the income tax due for either year. According to the firearm information from on or about October 12, 2018 through October 23, 2018, Hunter Biden possessed a firearm despite knowing he was an unlawful user of and addicted to a controlled substance. Yeah, the state prosecuting Hunter is Delaware. Told you they were great. If convicted, the 2 years' worth of tax charges would have a maximum sentence of 2 years in prison, and the firearm charge could have a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. However, Hunter struck a plea deal that includes a pretrial diversion program for the gun charge. Upon completing the program, the charge will be removed from his record, so he likely won't see any time in prison. No word, though, if Hunter will face any civil liability for the emotional scarring done to Matt for all the times he had to watch those videos of him. As you can imagine, Donald Trump had a very calm and measured response to this news, saying, "We all make mistakes." No, Trump blew a gasket on Truth Social, saying, "Wow, the corrupt Biden DOJ just cleared up hundreds of years of criminal liability by giving Hunter Biden a mere traffic ticket. Our system is broken." Upon hearing this, the thousands of people in American prisons for marijuana possession responded, "Yeah, are you new or something?" Hunter's lawyer said this plea deal resolves the Department of Justice's 5-year criminal investigation into the president's son. However, the Republican-led House Oversight Committee said this would have no impact on their probe into the Bidens, and they would continue investigating their alleged corruption, bribery, and influence peddling. So, nothing was really resolved, and the country's political division continues to deepen. On the bright side, if the U.S. does descend into another civil war, you can avoid getting drafted simply by putting on a bunch of weight. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Leave your comments below. And if you want to help us deliver nonpartisan news, be sure to support America Uncovered by going to patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. All it takes is as little as $1 or more per episode to fight YouTube censorship and demonetization. You can also set a monthly limit. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes, and I need help buying tickets to that Vegas cage match. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.